today, 10 years ago, December 18th, 2015, was the release of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Now, a lot has happened in the Star Wars franchise, and given this is the 10-year anniversary of the beginning of the sequel trilogy, the beginning of Disney's acquisition of the Star Wars brand and Lucasfilm as a whole, I thought it'd be a good time to just kind of reflect on where we've been and also just share my personal thoughts on the movie because I did rewatch it. I want to speak mostly to the vibe of what Star Wars coming back into the culture was, because back in 2012, the year that the acquisition was announced, Disney buying Lucasfilm, that is, there wasn't really much going on in the Star Wars universe. From what I'm aware of, there was the ongoing Star Wars, the Clone Wars series, which is phenomenal, and there was a potential Star Wars Detours show, an animated spoof show that was really meant to like make fun of and riff on Star Wars. This acquisition and the announcement of Episode 7 really was Star Wars coming back into the forefront in a big way. Not just like, oh, we're doing another movie in another part of the universe, prequel era, maybe original trilogy era. No, this was like, no, we're going forward. We're going to see your favorite characters return. That wasn't really confirmed at the time, but the expectation was, okay, if this is Episode 7, Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Chewbacca, R2-D2, C-3PO, they're all going to be back. And we were right for the most part. Because obviously, like, there's no real value for the fans to do Episode 7, 8, 9 if you're not going to follow those original characters, because they are Star Wars. And, you can say what you want. For me personally, Star Wars is the original trilogy, the Skywalker story. You can make spin-offs, you can do different genres in Star Wars, all you want. But for me, at the end of the day, Star Wars is those 6 movies. And the problem, I think, looking back on the sequel trilogy, is that it failed to maintain, respect, and capitalize on those 6 films. It really tried to distance itself. The Force Awakens was a retread of A New Hope, kind of plucking at your nostalgia strings. The Last Jedi was a radical departure. It was a departure of what Star Wars is, and really forcing you to let go of the past, let go of the characters, let go of your relationship with Star Wars and embrace this new kind of nihilistic thing. I don't know. I got to revisit The Last Jedi, because I don't think it's a horrible, worst film ever made movie, but it definitely is not great. And then Rise of Skywalker, of course, was just shameless nostalgia, trying to recapture the audience, kind of retread, backtrack The Last Jedi, reinforce The Force Awakens, and then that movie's just a mess, needless to say. And I'm sure in 2029 I'll be revisiting that one as well. But let's focus on The Force Awakens, because this was such an exciting time. Like, for me as a fan, I remember I was really into reading Collider back then, and so having like 10, 15 articles, seemed like there were like 10, 15 articles a day being written about Star Wars. And it was just one announcement and then a couple of interviews with Bob Iger, George Lucas, Kathleen Kennedy, just detailing what to expect from this Disney acquisition. And it was that, the Star Wars is back. For me personally, as a big nerd, my whole life was just Star Wars. Any nugget of information that I could get about The Force Awakens, leaked concept art, leaked audition scripts, locations, all of that. And that stuff leaked pretty early on too. And it was pretty, the excitement was palpable. no pun intended. Everybody was up for directing. I remember Jon Favreau, Brad Bird, Matthew Vaughn, Guillermo del Toro. All of these people were up for the directing job, and some passed, some really lobbied for it. I would have preferred Brad Bird or Jon Favreau, who ironically would end up being the showrunner for The Mandalorian and directing The Mandalorian and Grogu. But yeah, my eventually, of course, J.J. Abrams ended up getting the job, which makes sense because at the time his Star Trek movies were really big, and those. I think he said in interviews he never grew up a Star Trek fan, but he was a Star Wars fan, and so the irony that he would end up getting to direct Star Wars and that his work on Star Trek would end up getting him the job to direct Star Wars is pretty ironic if you ask me. Um, Casting was pretty wild too. I read doing my research for this that Jesse Plemons, Ryan Gosling, Tom Holland, Saoirse Ronan, so many different actors and actresses who are some pretty big to this day, even despite not getting cast in Star Wars, auditioned for The Force Awakens. Of course, John Boyega ended up beating everybody out, and Daisy Ridley were cast as the leads of the film, Finn and Rey, respectively. And of course, you had Poe Dameron, Oscar Isaac's character, Domhnall Gleeson, Andy Serkis, Lupita Nyong'o. Like, it was a pretty A-list cast. Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, and Mark Hamill were confirmed to return. Unfortunately, not in the most substantial roles that they probably should have gotten. Me personally, I think the trilogy should have focused primarily on Han, Luke, and Leia and their continuing adventures, not necessarily out the gate a new cast of characters. It could have worked if they had the old cast start out as the leads, and as the trilogy goes on, you pass the baton on to the next generation, as opposed to just passing the baton on right off the bat, and just that personally not working for me. But just going back to the moment, the cultural moment that this was, I remember when the first teaser came out. It was Black Friday in 2014. I had just gotten acquainted with my college roommates. We were all thankfully major Star Wars nerds, so a lot of them were willing to stay up with me to wait for the teaser to drop. I remember setting an alarm for like 6 a.m. to check, and it wasn't there, and I went back to sleep. And then I slept past my second alarm, and I think it was like 8 o'clock in the morning, and the trailer was everywhere. So I jumped out of bed and I did this reaction, and I look disheveled. I look like a mess, but I didn't care because it was Star Wars. And then every trailer after that was just a major event. I lost my mind for both trailers. I have reactions on YouTube, which I'll link. I might even play a little snippet in this video for you guys to see.
Chewie, we're home.
Oh my god!
I read somewhere that I think it was a review for The Force Awakens, and maybe a review for the trailers when doing research on this, that seeing Han Solo specifically and Chewbacca back in the Millennium Falcon was like, it was like a wish fulfillment. It was like something that we were told we were never going to get, and all of a sudden we had it. And it's true. That's what it felt like. That's what it felt like to have these movies, to know that this trilogy was on the horizon. That we all, anybody who grew up with Star Wars grew up with Han, Luke, and Leia, and that trio. And for me personally, those characters are beloved, and they are Star Wars. And the idea that we would never get those characters ever again for years was really frustrating, except for the novels and the comics, of course. But then fate would have it that they would come back, and at the time we didn't know how ill-fated that would be. But at the time it was a really hopeful, really positive thing to look forward to. I mean, I was high on life that time, man. The final trailer was an event too. I mean, like, there was a countdown. It was also going to be kicking off when you can first officially buy tickets to go see the movie. And I invited all my buddies over for a trailer watch party.
The dark side. The Jedi.
I was buying tickets for me and my little brother, and I, like all these things, the website almost crashed because so many people were buying tickets at the same time, and I was terrified that I was going to miss out. And thankfully, an hour later, my page refreshed and said that I had gotten 2 tickets to the midnight IMAX 3D showing, and me and my brother got to sit together and experience that. And yeah, the premiere was so fun. I mean, there were so many people there dressed in Star Wars gear and Star Wars costumes and stuff. I went with my little brother and my friend and her boyfriend. We had a great time. And then, ironically enough, that was really special because I had gotten to see an old friend from high school who I grew up being a Star Wars fan with. We nerded out over Star Wars. We made Star Wars short films together in his parents' house. And to see him there, I didn't know he was going to be there, and to be able to sit next to him and enjoy this moment as fans was really cool to see. And unfortunately, that was the last time I'd seen him. We haven't spoken in years. He doesn't have social media, so that's why. As far as the movie itself, The Force Awakens, I rewatched it. I have a copy, and I checked it out. And I gotta say, I still really like it. It's not perfect. It's got a lot of flaws, and there's a lot of frustrating things about the movie, but as an experience, and many movies and many pop cinema films are meant to be experiences, it thrills in every sense. It's exhilarating. It's amazing. You can see the production quality, craftsmanship on screen. You can see where every dollar was spent. And you can't say that about a lot of movies. Incredible accomplishment, I think, in blending practical effects and CGI and phenomenal talent, and harkening back to that sort of soap opera-y, space opera storytelling that George Lucas turned the world onto in 1977 with the original Star Wars. And that seemed to have gotten sort of lost throughout the trilogy, and even in parts of The Force Awakens. But all in all, I think the film is great. The things that I love about the movie, I think, cast-wise, everyone's fantastic. John Boyega, Daisy Ridley, Oscar Isaac, Adam Driver, especially Adam Driver. I mean, I think he's objectively the best actor in the trilogy and in this particular movie, maybe second to Daisy Ridley. The returning actors, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, although Mark Hamill has very little to do, they all managed to play their parts effortlessly well. And Harrison Ford, who's notorious for kind of giving the middle finger up figuratively to Star Wars fans, for him to come back and give a genuine performance as Han Solo was really, I think it speaks volumes to his not only his acting ability, but for him to do that, even though it probably wasn't the thing he wanted to do. They probably paid him a lot of money, so it probably wasn't that big of a deal. But he did a great job, genuinely a great performance. It felt like Han Solo. It didn't feel like Harrison Ford, mulling through the set and just hitting his marks. He gave a great, solid performance. I do think while it's a little frustrating at parts, the story revolving around retreading A New Hope and getting BB-8, who's a fill-in for R2-D2, to the Resistance so that they can use that information to further the plot, further the story, which is all about finding Luke Skywalker. It added a lot of mystery, added a lot of intrigue to the story. Of course, the trilogy we ended up getting was, ended up making that feel a little less satisfying than it did watching in 2015. The main issues I have with the film is in the writing department and how it specifically treats its leads. Finn, John Boyega, and Rey, played by Daisy Ridley. Finn is not a well-written character, in my opinion, and that's not the fault of John Boyega. I think he does a great job with what he's given. He is treated as a red herring in the marketing and in the film itself. We were all led to believe he was going to be the Jedi. He was going to be the one to be trained by Luke Skywalker, and he was going to be, at least, next to Daisy Ridley, like passing the torch, or receiving the torch. And he was going to be the Jedi. Every poster had him posed with that lightsaber. And so it was implied that he was going to be the guy, only for it to go to Rey, which is fine, but Rey is just given so much in the film. And I don't think that's because she's a Mary Sue. I don't think she's a flawless, perfect character. I just think she's given too much, and that's what makes her to be perceived as a Mary Sue. She gets Luke's lightsaber. She gets a blaster gifted by Han Solo. She gets the Millennium Falcon. Basically, that's her ship now. She has the Force. She's strong with the Force. She has all these things, these 4 things, and it's you couldn't give one of those to Finn to make his journey more interesting? Because if you track his journey, he defects from the First Order for reasons. He just up and decides he doesn't want to kill anybody, and just becomes a coward and runs. And then he just sees Rey, decides to help her randomly, for no reason at all, other than just he wants to help people, I guess, but he didn't want to help people in the village. I don't know. It's very, very weird and inconsistent. And he's just trying to run away from the First Order. He just wants to get away from the First Order. He doesn't want to help the Resistance. He doesn't care about the Resistance. And then he teams up with the Resistance to save Rey. And then he lies to get on Starkiller base. And then he's given the lightsaber. He used it to kill some stormtroopers. He used it to fight Kylo Ren for a second, and then he's just gone. He's out of the movie. It's a disservice to John Boyega, who's a great actor. It's a disservice to what fans expected of that character based on what the marketing was telling us, which is that he's going to be a Jedi and he's probably going to be trained by Luke Skywalker. I mean, those are just kind of obvious inferences to draw from the marketing. When in fact Rey becomes, and Rey is set up as the best character, one of the best characters, because she is special. The music, the phenomenal music of John Williams, hints at that she is special, and there is something inside her that is awakening. And John Williams' music, his theme for Rey, beautifully hints at that. I mean, it's phenomenal orchestral storytelling, but it just kind of stings because you realize that all these things Rey has, and she's any of those things could have been given to Finn. You could have made him the Jedi, made Rey the Resistance fighter. You could have made Finn give him the Falcon and be the Resistance fighter. There's just so many other ways that they could have done this, instead of ending him in a coma and then making him just the Rey fanboy for the entire trilogy. It's just really sad and disappointing. And I doubt John Boyega is ever going to see this video, but I like him a lot as an actor. I think he is great in the movie. I think he does his best with what he has. And I wish he had been served better by this trilogy. And that's no disrespect to Daisy Ridley. I love Daisy Ridley too. I think she's phenomenal in this film. She's incredibly endearing. She's incredibly likable, which is why, to me, she doesn't come off as a Mary Sue, just a not so well written character. She's incredibly hopeful. She's incredibly likable throughout the movie. But she also has this impeccable know-how about technology and ships and all that, which makes sense to her character. But then she also has the Force. It's just too much. It's just too much, and it's not enough for the co-lead of the film. It's disappointing. Now, going back to a plus, Kylo Ren, I think, is the best character in this trilogy. I mean, say what you want about this trilogy, it shouldn't exist, but if this trilogy didn't exist, we would not get Kylo Ren, and I'm so grateful for that. it's a bummer that they used him to kill Han Solo, but Han Solo has a really satisfying arc in that way. There's a theme in the movie about like masks. Everyone has these masks. They're hiding themselves, or they're running from their destiny. Finn is running away from the fight when he should be running towards the fight. Rey is running away from her calling as a Jedi when she should be running towards that, running towards the island, running towards Luke Skywalker. Han is running away from confronting his past, confronting Leia, confronting his son, and he is forced to confront Leia, and it ends up being a happy reunion. The two of them are happy to see each other, and then um, his reunion with his son is, of course, ends badly for him, but I think he also knows he's probably going to die in that situation. But it's worth it if it's going to he's going to be able to reach his son. And so that theme of masks really is endearing and really really interesting and really cool about the Force Awakens. I think the Luke mystery is. It started out, as like really cool and interesting and intriguing, but I think knowing that we're never going to see Han, Luke, and Leia on screen again makes it sting. It's very disappointing. And I honestly wish that we didn't get it that way. I wish we would have figured out a way to get Luke in the film early and have Han and Leia and all of them reunite. And then you can still kill Han Solo in that way, but at least you have a scene. A scene. Like, that is the only reason to do a sequel trilogy to the original trilogy, is to get those three back on screen. And at no point do any of those three actors or those three characters ever actually in the same space. I mean, Han and Leia are together, yes, but Luke doesn't even get to be with Leia, actually. He's projected across the galaxy. I mean, not to get into The Last Jedi. That's another video for another day. But although Mark Hamill acts his butt off in those final moments, it's an incredible performance from him. I wish that he was more involved in the plot. I wish there was a way to introduce him into the film and really give us a chance to see him in his prime and ready to lead the Jedi. And we don't get that. And it's really disappointing. And that's one of the things that I will never forgive this trilogy for. There's a lot of flaws with The Force Awakens. There's a lot not to like about the movie. But I can't help but, rewatching it, just can't help but feel joy. I really like this movie. It reminds me of an more innocent time. This time of just great excitement and anticipation for the film. The production quality is just bar none. It's incredible. I think it's one of J.J. Abrams' best movies, even if it's not the most well-written movie as far as its leads are concerned. I know people have differing opinions about J.J. Abrams. Say what you want about the guy. I know he is known for just kind of recreating nostalgia bait, but he does a good job at it. And nostalgia isn't necessarily bad. And it's a movie that I like to watch every now and then, especially around the holiday season. It feels like a Christmas tradition. For better, for worse. I don't necessarily see myself forcing my wife to watch Star Wars during the holidays, because she probably would hate me for that. But I wouldn't mind popping this in during the Christmas season. 10 years later, it's unfortunate that the Star Wars brand is where it is today. Some of that blame can be shifted towards Kathleen Kennedy. Some of that blame can be shifted towards Bob Iger, and both their mismanagements of the franchise, of the brand, including and extending to Indiana Jones. But here's hoping that they pull through and that we see brighter days, because I don't want to hate Star Wars. And I don't think a lot of fans want to hate Star Wars. I think we want a reason to get behind Star Wars. So here's hoping that whatever they got planned, the Heir to the Empire film with Luke and Mandalorian and Ahsoka and all those guys, Mandalorian and Grogu, Star Wars Starfighter, Ahsoka Season 2, like whatever Lucasfilm has got on the horizon, let's hope that it's great, because I want to be a fan again. I want to enjoy these things. It's something I've been thinking about a lot, considering we got Avengers Doomsday coming out, and with those teasers making their way online, leaking online, it's creating excitement again and anticipation for a brand that a lot of people are saying is dead. if it can happen to Marvel, it can happen to Star Wars, I think. I also want to just talk really quick before we go. Merchandise for this movie was pretty fantastic. None of these figures are from The Force Awakens except for this one. I got this bad boy as a gift when I visited Walt Disney Animation Studios. I knew someone who used to work there, and they bought me this die-cast Han Solo figure. It's a Disney exclusive, Disney Store exclusive, Han Solo from The Force Awakens. I used to have Rey, Finn, I used to have like almost the entire cast from The Force Awakens. I had a bunch of figures, but most of my collection now is basically original trilogy and prequel trilogy and Mandoverse, whatever you want to call it, figures. I actually bought the Finn Black Series figure. He was my first 6-inch action figure that I had gotten, and that was my first time getting into collecting. And unfortunately, I sold that figure about 2 years ago, and I'm kicking myself because I wish I had kept him, because he would have been a nice memento to hold on to from not only my first figure, but just the time that I look back so fondly on, which is the build up to The Force Awakens. So maybe I'll track him down and re-add him to my collection. We'll see. But with all that being said, happy anniversary, Star Wars The Force Awakens. For better, for worse, you exist. You're a film. And 10 years later, despite your flaws, you still manage to drive me crazy and fill me with joy.
The Force, it's calling to you. Just let it in.